I genuinely believe most people should not start a business and they would actually be much happier because of it. You kind of have to look at the pros and cons. If you have let's say, a high paying regular job, you stop work after your 9 to 5, you have a stable paycheck, you don't work on the weekends. When you're not at work, you're not thinking about work. It's completely off your mind. You can focus on friends, family, your hobbies, whatever it is that you actually want to do. Whereas in business, you don't really get that optionality. There has been times over the past few years where I've had, let's say, a month at end where I've had very low work because I didn't have a lot to do. Or I'd be playing pickleball half the day, going to the gym, doing pretty much whatever, having a lot of freedom, both geographically and time freedom in a lot of different aspects. But there's also times where, let's say, a month on end, when you're working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and every single night you go to bed a little bit stressed out. And you're constantly thinking about what you should be doing. So there's really are pros and cons. And a lot of people say it actually gets easier over time. I've found it just to get more difficult. I don't think business has gotten any easier. It's actually getting way harder the more you do it, because your problems get bigger. The stress becomes a lot higher. There's a lot more pressure when it's not just you reliant upon it. There's also other people relying upon this to succeed. And so if it doesn't, you're not just letting down yourself, but you're letting down a bunch of other people. I'm sure at some point it will get easier, but I don't think that is anytime soon. I think your ability to handle that amount of stress and pressure substantially goes up, and your ability to handle those kinds of work flows when it does occur definitely increases substantially. I mean, there's no way I would have been able to work 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, say 3 years ago, or be able to handle some of the problems that I have now. So your ability to handle pressure and problems continuously goes up. And the size of your business is going to directly relate to how big your problems actually are. My problems are so ridiculously small compared to the guys I work with. I mean, today I was just on the phone with someone that I've messed up big time. They own a hospital in Mexico where they are quite literally trying to cure cancer. And so if I think my problems are even slightly large, it is so ridiculously minuscule to them having stage 4 cancer patients coming to their hospital. So there's definitely just different degrees. And you're rewarded pretty much directly in compensation for how big of the problem you're trying to solve. And so let me just use the example of how I've royally fucked up with those guys and how I plan on fixing it. It's just very unprofessional. I mean, I wouldn't continue to work with myself if I'm being completely honest with the unprofessionalism that I've had. So PJ and I went over there, we did a bunch of cool stuff with them, and we were using their team to try and get everything dialed in. And we weren't really getting any feedback, but we weren't pressuring them because I understand that we were providing them a lot more work that they had to be doing, and no employee wants to take on more additional work that they're probably not getting compensated for. So it just never came in. And instead of following up and continuing trying to hammer down what is the problem, we just kind of let it be. And now that was like 2 months ago. And so I called the guy today and we had a conversation, and I just said, hey, here's what we're going to do. And I squared it all away. But it's just so unprofessional, because if someone did that to me, what I did to this guy, I would have less than zero expectations for them. And I wouldn't really want to work with me. And you would say that's because I have too many clients or too much stuff going on. It's one of the main reasons why I just want to focus on providing the best possible quality for all my clients right now, because I'm clearly lacking in a ton of areas. And that's just me being blatantly honest. Instead of trying to collect more money from new people, I desperately just want to show the best possible value for the guys I'm currently working with. It's just a low class move. I mean, at the end of the day, that is just a very low class move. And you could call it inexperience, which it absolutely is. But if I'm working with these guys of this caliber, you're just not allowed to fuck up like that. And this guy, he actually didn't care at all. He blamed it on his team, and that will be I'm blatantly clear about that. But at the end of the day, this is my fault. I continuously shtick myself for saying that I am going to reduce the amount of effort and work that any of my clients have to spend on this. And so, of course, it's not his fault. And if you take complete accountability for your life, I could say, well, they weren't communicating well with me. It doesn't work that way. If I commit to doing something and it doesn't get done, that is 100% your fault. It's no one else's. And so I'm very upset with myself for that. Exceptionally upset. And I actually am now noticing usually when I'm pretty upset with myself, my go-to reaction is just to start pounding food. So right, I didn't even notice I've been just absolutely hemorrhaging grapes down the system. And so I forget what I was talking about because I remembered that I wanted to gut punch myself as hard as I possibly could. I guess the pros and cons of having a business. Well, I'm surrounded by people that are the coolest people in the world. And I love what I do. It's just some days where I'm so mad at myself for not getting the things done that need to get done. And I do multitask a lot. I'm always working on multiple things at a time. I should be able to delegate more, but if something doesn't get done, that is my fault. It just sucks sometimes. Having, let's say, like 7 different people that you're working with. This is where it would be easier if I could bring some people on and get a lot of things dialed in. The big problem with that is more so budgeting. So there would need to be a bunch of things that happen. I mean, just got to work harder at the end of the day. I mean, there's a lot of time that I spend that's not working. I definitely could be working. And even just like I traveled to Vegas this weekend and just nothing gets done if I'm gone. And so I didn't have to go on that trip. It was a free trip. I easily could have stayed home and worked. I mean, I got to get something down to where I know exactly what needs to get done and have like a to-do list. And if that stuff doesn't get done, then it's clear as day. Like someone's on the hook for it. Because if not, I'm going to continue to run into these problems. Now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, that's why people systematize what they're doing in their businesses and have KPIs and do all these things for everyone. And that's just naivety and inexperience, probably what everyone does when they're starting out. I usually put a decent bit of pressure on myself to make sure this stuff is figured out and to think about these things in advance for the problems that will arise. Actually, I just got a text from Robert saying that he can't do tomorrow, which actually worked very well because yeah. I was actually so stressed that I would have been going to Robert's house tomorrow with a bunch of things going on that really, really, really need to get handled. So I'm flying down to Tijuana, I think November 8th. So there's probably, I'm going to put in so much effort. It's going to be ridiculous to make sure that these are the best things in the entire world. These are just the best guys ever. Like these are the guys who run this and own this hospital are some of the coolest, best guys I've ever met in my entire life. And I just want to be able to continue to see what they're doing and be around it and work with guys who are that great. It's my fault for fucking it up. And I didn't actually fuck it up because we're going to redeem it and we're going to make it the best thing ever. And at the end of the day, I let things go very easy. I'm hard on myself for a short burst of time, but that's just so I don't make the same mistake again. I'm really just mad at the problem, and me not doing that causes just an outburst of rage. Not really. It's more so just disappointment in myself. Because I know if I thought ahead and it's not me thinking of everything, but if I had everything written down and let's say had a reminder or something, I definitely would have gotten this stuff done. It's easy to let things slip through the cracks when you don't have systems in place. And that's why everything keeps on going down to having systems in place to where when things are getting done and when they're not. And you leave out the human variable where humans are going to make mistakes. And I mean, I'm going to continue to make a million mistakes. And you can't be too hard on yourself where, I mean, I'll completely be fine in like 30 minutes. It's just I need to feel enough disappointment to where I don't want to do this again. I'm already feeling better now that I have my anti-retard blockers on. These things are high-powered diesel glasses. You guys deserve to not see blue light for a minute and maybe become less retarded, as supposedly blue light makes you retarded.